Well, the three primary themes in the volume have to do with the history of American liberalism in the post-war era. The second is a variety of different types of economic issues and themes throughout the 20th century. And the third is one that was unique to Galbraith, is that in advanced capitalist society, we need to develop goods that are both private and public. What's the right balance between public and that of private goods? To understand post-war American liberalism, we need to turn to John Kenneth Galbraith. And the selected letters provide us with a unique opportunity to see the main figures of American liberalism. We see Eleanor Roosevelt, we see Adlai Stevenson, we see the closeness he had with John Kennedy and the role that he had in helping to define the new frontier. And then we have the tragic relationship between John Kenneth Galbraith and that of Lyndon Johnson. He pleaded with Johnson to get out of the Vietnam War, and he recognizes that if Johnson continued his involvement in Vietnam, it would lead to the demise of American liberalism. And then for the last theme is that in terms of public and private goods, is that what we see with Galbraith is his understanding that in advanced society, what we're concerned about is not just defining the standard of living in terms of economic growth. Well, I think that will come out, first of all, is the impact and the influence, as I mentioned earlier, on defining American liberalism during the post-war era. For example, is that with John Kennedy, he was concerned about the United States involvement with the baiting pigs. With Lyndon Johnson, he literally pleaded with Johnson not to get involved with the Vietnam War. And then finally, at the end of his life, he was concerned about the United States involvement in the war in Iraq. And in the letters would come out, he pretty much predicted what would be the outcome, that it would lead to ethnic strife in the Middle East. And so throughout the book, what we see is his involvement with the major figures of American liberalism, with that of Eleanor Roosevelt, Adlai Stevenson, John Kennedy, that with Johnson, with that of McGovern, Hubert Humphrey, all the way up to the very end where we have some wonderful letters with correspondence between Galbraith, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and also Bill Clinton. An interesting fact that will come out with the letters is that he was writing a book with Bill Clinton, and that will come out for the first time. I think what's interesting with the volume of letters, and it's about 700 pages, and so it covers a wide array of different topics from the 1930s up to 2006. And what comes out is his ability to predict exactly what would happen, what we can see today. And first was the issue of war, is that he never believed that the United States would be involved with military actions abroad. And if you look at the Bay of Pigs, if you look at the Vietnam and the war in Iraq, his predictions were correct. The second theme that comes out of his legacy and what he sees in terms of the future is the increase in inequality. And again, in the letters, what we find is that increases in economic inequality lead to tensions within society that inevitably can lead to different types of authoritarian sentiments or even authorities being involved in our political process. And then the third is his concern with that of environmental sustainability, economic sustainability, and physical sustainability. And he was one of the first ones to say we need to get beyond a economic model of just economic growth, but think of a new model of sustainable development that includes that of growth, quality of life, and protecting the environment. And so what we find is that his interactions with individuals throughout the history of the 20th century tell us a lot about what happened at that time, but also what the volume does is tell us and hints about where we can go in the future. To really understand American liberalism in the United States, we need to turn to John Kenneth Galbraith. Probably the only writer that had such an impact on American liberalism outside of Galbraith was Schlesinger, Arthur Schlesinger. And basically what Galbraith did was to say that to think about American liberalism, we need to think in terms of prosperity, we need to think in terms of equality, and we need to think in terms of developing the quality of life that will sustain all. And so you have themes of inequality, you have themes of dealing with military war, and what more importantly is that what you have is a sense of what is it that Americans need to come together to deal with issues of the future.